Rolling.
Rolling.
Sound.
I'm ready. Everyone ready?
Lights are good.
I'm ready whenever you guys are.
That was bad. That was really bad.
Ow!
It was one of the most challenging and rewarding things I did. Probably the most challenging and the most rewarding thing that I did at Wheaton.
Still rolling.
Still rolling.
Quiet on set. Scene 2, take 3.
I just have such a respect for Hollywood now because of my experience with this film.
Focusing. Cut. One more time.
Action.
It's been the biggest time sink aside from my classes, but in a very good way.
Okay, let's run it one more time.
Low battery.
1, 2, 3. Green screen and shot.
It's fascinating to see how really different people all work together. I guess it's kind of this beautiful harmony that all comes together and makes a class film great, and that's been really cool to watch happen.
Dan O'Regan and I, who is the other director, met about a week after the showing of the class film last year, so that would be about April 25th, and we just sat down in a meeting and decided what exactly we wanted to do for this year's film. And a full year ago, we decided we wanted to work on a fantasy with a female lead, and we wanted to work together. And that's how I got involved, and I've been involved ever since. Because we both knew we wanted to direct, and we both had a vision of pushing the bar to a further level for a class film. After Dan and I had a meeting and kind of mapped out what we wanted, over summer I went away and wrote the very, very first initial draft, and that draft is probably somewhere on my computer or my hard drive or something. No one has seen that draft, not even Dan. That was the very first draft, just me. It was a full draft, with lines and everything. But I mean, honestly, it wasn't that great. So from there, I reworked it and presented the second draft to Dan. This was still over summer. Dan and I went through the second draft together, and we started picking and pulling stuff apart, and then really trying to make the script work. I started editing the first draft of the script over the summer, and the second and third and fourth drafts of the script. I think when we came back to campus, we were on the third to the fourth draft of the script, and then we were like, you know what, this feels like it's going somewhere, but we, as far as Dana and I have been on this project for at that time 2 months. We need some new fresh ideas. We need some new eyes to come and look at this project. So that's why we invited Tim and Kendall on board, so that they can come and look at this project and see, what's working, what's not working.
I started working on this year's film as soon as I got back to school in August. Ten had emailed me a very early script, which reflects very little of what the film will actually be. But the first week of school, Ten, Dan, Kendall, and I all got together for a story meeting, and that's when it really started.
And when they came on board, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't working for them. Only a small amount of that actually made it into the final draft.
We were working off a very early and, to be perfectly honest, not very good script, but it had some key story elements down. So we started with that, and we worked with it, and we made a lot of changes, a lot of improvements. but we started out with just story meetings. We didn't write, we just talked and kind of sketched out the outline.
We completely kind of pulled the really good stuff from the script that Dan and I wrote over summer and completely kind of changed the story and remapped the story again. So that was the first initial week or second week of coming back from summer, is Tim, Kendall, Dan, and myself sitting in a room and just saying, this is what is working, this isn't what's working, this is what's working, this is what we need to change, and we just basically remapped the whole story again.
But then once we had the basic story ideas sketched out, it fell to me and Kendall to actually write the script.
We had to write a script, and that was rough. Like, we would spend basically all of our weekends pounding out a script.
The next couple of weeks was intense work on getting the initial first new draft.
We'd work. There was one weekend where we worked like 20 hours on the script. It was just ridiculous. 12 hours one day and 8 hours the other day. It was pretty bad.
You know, we went to Kendall's place and we went to the library. We went to the stoop, and we were just basically hashing out line by line, word by word, sentence by sentence, letter by letter, what story was about. And so long days, 20-hour days, 20-hour weekends, even sometimes even 36-hour weekends where we were just doing nothing but working on the script.
We had an outline that we keep revising. We have kind of characters that we know are in there that we keep working off of. We developed the story and then we wrote the script based on that, and we go back and edit we edit both as we see need for changes.
Oh,
Kira's
you want
also,
it seeming like, I see it, like the siblings,
the
so it's
siblings,
just like,
yeah.
it's the siblings.
So
it's
the
like,
two siblings are like looking for that, or like remembering Kira. Kira's also remembering them. So either
it's almost like they could be looking. It's almost like they could be like looking looking at something,
right,
and then we fade to Kira looking at something in the same way, but facing the opposite direction almost.
Right.
Yeah, we could do something. We could do something like that. I don't know what the next scene is.
Well, when that was finished, we were at a place where we were like, we have something to work with, we have something we can send out to the cast and crew, and we had something where we were pretty much happy.
Kira stands and walks down to join Ethan.
Where do you want to go? Does it matter?
It'll be fun. Come on.
Intro credits and exterior Las Vegas day. Kira, Ethan, and Ariel run into Mikhail. He's surprised to see them there.
What are you three doing here? Shouldn't you be at school?
Kira, Ethan, and Ariel are sheepish at being caught, and obviously different to Mikhail. Ariel seems the most embarrassed.
We took a day off?
So this was your idea?
No.
So it was yours?
Of course not.
The interesting thing is that a lot of the plot has changed from the first initial script that I wrote over summer. I would say maybe about 10% of the plot has made it into the movie, but the characters for the most part, have remained. The characters and their personalities and their character traits and just how they fit into the story, what their motivations are, how they are as characters. That, for the most part, has undergone changes, but you can see that Ethan is kind of like the same Ethan. Mikhail is kind of like the same Mikhail. Ariel is kind of like the same Ariel. So that was really cool. Was that the plot might change, but the characters were really good characters.
Starting with the most important, Dano is Mikhail's right-hand man. He is sort of the ambassador of the Avarim and is responsible for keeping peace between the tribes and teleporting Mikhail around whenever Mikhail doesn't feel like walking. And he's a really deep character that unfortunately we didn't get to develop in the plot, which was actually okay because that was the only casting decision that I think was really a mistake. Kira is the daughter of Samael, adopted daughter of Mikhail. She's got a lot of angst about that, and also about the fact that she's the only Shadim in a human world populated by Tavim and Avarim.
think that she's a very good mix of rational intelligence and emotion. And so I think that she's a very well-rounded character. She's a little bit impulsive, and she's very spunky. She's very, she's definitely intelligent, thinks for herself, independent. She's a strong person, and I think she's very, very close. She's very close relationships to people, so she's very caring. She's definitely somewhat emotional. Very emotional, maybe. And the way I play her is pretty emotional, so.
We knew from pretty early on that Kira's story was largely one of identity. She was Shadim, growing up with these other tribes.
She's not really accepted by anybody except for Ethan and Ariel, and she's responsible for opening an interdimensional portal and effectively leading to the demise of several of her friends.
Didn't really know who she was supposed to be or going to be, and she expresses that to Mikhail.
But I've never even seen another Shadim. How am I supposed to become their leader, and why would I even want to? They're not like us. They're evil.
And that's her big issue through the film is I'm supposed to be this person. They have these hereditary leaders, but she doesn't know how she's supposed to do it because she doesn't know who she is.
She has some fears of herself and of her place in her weird world, and I think that the film really goes through her working through those fears and coming out, accepting herself and accepting her role, and not just accepting it, but being able to fulfill it and make it great.
And so by the end of the film, the goal for Kira is to become that leader and to identify and hold herself high and be strong and confident.
I am Shadim, and I will not let you kill anyone else.
Ethan and Ariel were a little bit less defined. We kind of had the rough idea that definitely played through, but that Ariel was more of a rules follower.
Ariel is a warrior. She has a really strong fighting spirit. She's very committed to a goal, and so I wouldn't say like she's not violent by nature, but I think she's just very committed to the goals that have been set down for her by her father.
Very pulled together, not quite uptight, but very in charge of her own life and in control. She's fully embraced the possibility that she will eventually be the leader of the Tevim.
She wants to do her best, and she's kind of a by-the-book type girl. And that's expressed from the very start of the movie.
Come on, you two are gonna be late.
We're not going.
Again? Skip with us. And do what?
We're going on a family outing.
Whoa, where are we going?
You know what? She's okay with going along with Kira and Ethan's quirky adventures, but she takes things a little bit more seriously in life, and wants to please her dad.
She loves Kira and Ethan a lot, but has a lot of loyalty to her father Mikhail and to her people. And a lot of the conflict for her in the plot comes from the knowledge that if she obeys her father, she might be dooming Kira.
Could have fooled me.
You think I don't want to get Kira back? But Mikhail is right.
I thought a lot of Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica, even though they specifically told me at the beginning that was more like Kira's character rather than Ariel. But I just kind of saw her as being like a really strong commander. And so I guess I looked to strong female leads. I mean, Katniss in the Hunger Games and things like that, where it's just a very empowered female.
Ethan is an Averim, which makes him one of the best. And he loves Kira a lot, is a little bit less okay with Mikhail, and he also doesn't get up to fight enough in this movie.
He doesn't say much, but what he says has importance, and I really like that. He's obviously caring, but not weak. That's why he's the one looking for Kira. He takes responsibility for just leaving.
I don't know, for a while we kind of said Ethan was more sensitive, but I'm not sure he turned out that way. I think Ethan was more headstrong because he didn't have that immediate father figure. Mikhail was there as his father, but he didn't have another Averim that was kind of looking over his shoulder, making sure he stayed in step. And we see very early that Ethan kind of steps into that role.
I don't care. I'm going after her.
No, Ethan, wait.
And it takes Ariel longer to adopt that role.
He's sort of uptight in our film. Like, he always disagrees with Mikhail, and he's always charging around. I feel like he's got more energy than anybody else in the film. And it's mostly pent up. He doesn't actually do that much, but he looks cool whenever he does do stuff. Running through the woods and that sort of thing.
Mikhail was there early on in the earliest conceptions of the story, basically as he finished up. He was the father figure of the Tevim, the kind of strong leader.
Dude's a boss, but he might have killed his sister, and then he tries to kill everybody else.
What wasn't there at the very beginning but got added before too long was the fact that he was this very selfish, egotistical sort of person under the surface. Who was it that I was hearing the other day? I know who it was. It was the writer of Toy Story. And he was talking about early conceptions of Woody. And they knew Woody had to be somewhat of a selfish character. But the early writing wasn't working out. They realized that Woody can be selfish, but he can be caring and giving so long as certain conditions are met. And so for Woody, the condition that has to be met is that he's still the top toy. And as long as he's the top toy, he's okay kind of running the room and being this generous, affable, friendly sort of person. It's only when Buzz comes in and sort of challenges that he gets really jealous. And so there's a similar thing going on with Mikhail in that he believes in what he's talking about. He believes that peace is possible, that peace is what's needed. It's just his conception of peace is different. He believes in a hierarchy of the tribes.
This war's not over. Not until the Shadim have paid for everything they have done. We will have peace when we cleanse the Shadim of all who reject their ordained rule.
He's a clever man of strategy, but also one who seriously believes that his race is superior, his tribe is superior to the others. And another good word for him would be conniving.
He's benevolent to the point that his personal needs are met. But under the surface, he's very aggressive. And that comes out when he hits Kira.
And Samael is a bad dude. He started a war, killed a bunch of people, also may have killed his sister, starts a fight, and eventually gets stabbed in the back. And he is angry a lot and likes to fight. Norshek is a boss. We pretty much made him because we tried to figure out, like, if Kendall could find a man and marry him, what would he be like? And if he wasn't a geek physicist from Iowa or something like that, he would be Norshek, an interdimensional warrior who fights with knives or his bare hands, makes shields, talks with a low voice, and is the stereotypical, I'm kind of bad, but I'm really a good guy, but I don't take junk from anybody.
We realized fairly early in the scripting process that Samael alone could not be sort of the shadow of the film. He couldn't be the only bad guy because we never saw him until the end. So the Shadim could kind of be this force, but we needed somebody to embody that force, especially for Kira, especially once we realized she got kidnapped. So that started off being Norshek. Then we realized that Kira needed, for her to come around and see the Shadim positively and to identify as Shadim, she needed a positive role model, much in the way that Mikhail early in the film is a positive role model to her for the other tribes. Norshek had to become that for her for the Shadim, even if she kind of differed with him on some details.
We'll start simple. Break you of some bad habits. The Shadim move quickly and directly. Close the space between you and your opponent.
That's too direct. You get cut to bits.
Quit thinking like a Tavim. You don't need ornamentation to keep your enemy at bay. You can make shields. Use them.
Because you're basically creating a human out of your mind, so you're kind of discovering new emotions he has for new scenes and discovering how he behaves in certain situations and circumstances. And I think we learned a lot who he was. He changed from his original persona. And I guess the kind of finalized version of who Norshek was more talkative and less authoritative and more monotone.
We still didn't have kind of this malevolent force for Ethan and Ariel to push against. They could push against the idea of the Shadim, but if none of the Shadim were actually bad, then our conflict was really weak, because it was all just misunderstanding. It wasn't actually any forceful conflict. It was all just accident. And that's sort of where Jessa came in.
Jessa is the second in command of the Shadim that are on Earth. She's Norshek's right-hand lieutenant. She's a very fiery, passionate character. Is very pro-Shadim and anti the other Molochs in general. For Shadim is right and everything else is suspect, if not definitely wrong. She's a fun character to play. She's got a lot of passion, a lot of anger, most of it directed at Kira and Mikhail by proxy, although she doesn't ever get to actually take that out on him.
Jessa is is very one-dimensional, but is also one of my favorite characters, because she is all gung-ho for Samael. Samael is the king, and she's even less forgiving, I think, than Samael, but does it in his name.
Lots of takes I was channeling a whole lot of cold and saying, okay, you're really cold, use that to just portray anger and frustration. One character I would liken Jessa to in my vast movie experience is from the X-Men movies. I think that the character Mystique has a similar sort of position in relation to the other characters in the film. I kind of like to think that I did a little bit of that sort of a character with Jessa. She's sure she's right, and she disagrees with other people about what is the best thing for her people. So that was something I kind of thought I might portray a little bit. I don't know how I did, but that was maybe one of my goals.
Jessa, unfortunately, got the shaft in our film. She's the comic relief character, at least through the first cut. She hates Kira. She's very loyal to Samael and Norshek. And pretty much her only function in the film is to be a foil to Kira and make the audience laugh, which she did really well. Sorry, Jacqueline. Lonnie is blue. She teleports around and says the word Kira like 3 times throughout the script.
I feel like Lonnie is in control of her emotions. She definitely feels, but she's able to kind of put them aside and is really after the best interest of her people. I think that's sort of what I was trying to portray in the scene where they're all around the table talking about what's going on. And so she's able to stay controlled, unlike some of the other characters. So she's more stable. And then in the scene where she sees Kira and is just so surprised to see her, she's still able to be open to Kira. She's not, she doesn't close herself off right away just because she doesn't know what's going on. And so she's also kind of gracious toward her. And I feel like that's a pretty pivotal part in the film where Kira decides to make herself known to Lonnie. So I think she knows that out of all the people that she could do this with, Lonnie could be a safe person to do that with.
Ropon! That dude's a bro. He dies in scene 1. That was like his job in the movie, but he did it really well.
Go! Thank you, Ropan. You will not be forgotten.